What's up, y'all? It's your boy City Boy T with Players and Protagonists, and welcome back to another one of our videos. This is another installment of our Ooh Tell 'em series, and we're going to be talking about turn-based RPGs and action RPGs. Thanks again for tuning in, and remember to join our Discord to keep up with announcements and join our growing community. It's a big bird. So yeah, as we get into this conversation, we really just want to talk about, what are folks' preferences around these type of RPGs? What's y'all favorites? Why do you think they have the design elements that they have? Let's really just dive into it. I want to hear y'all thoughts about both of these forms of RPGs.
All right.
Where should I start? So I like both. I'll kick us off. I do definitely like both. I think my preference has always been turn-based because turn-based RPGs, if done right, feel like you're playing a little bit of a puzzle. Like you have to figure out what the weaknesses are. If you're looking at like a Persona or SMT, there's usually something underlying where you have to like balance your party setup based on what the enemy has going on. So it tends to be a little bit, and there's exceptions to this because y'all know I'm a Dark Souls fan too, but there tends to be in general a bit more than just hit the thing until the HP goes down.
No, that's a good reasoning because me personally, I was never a fan of. Okay, well, I'm a fan of watching people play turn-based, but I personally never got into turn-based other than Undertale technically, and that was kind of because I'm the type of person that just likes immediately doing as much as I can. I don't want to wait for them to do. I feel like when Goku be watching cells power up, you know what I'm saying? It's like, no, let me complete this now. And so that's how I was going into it, but I never looked into it being a puzzle. And with that mindset, that's definitely interesting.
JRPGs really do be feeling, not JRPG, turn-based RPGs really do be feeling like puzzles. That's something I started experiencing very lately after I started getting involved in Mega 10 games, but I've grown up, and I think my tastes have been changing over time. Growing up, I was definitely more of an action RPG type of person. But I remember when I was younger, there was one game that changed that for me, and that was Chrono Trigger. And Chrono Trigger was really the turning point for me that got me into a lot of turn-based RPGs because it still had the live timer. You know what I'm saying? If you took too long to take action, the enemy would still smack you. But you really had to get those puzzles going and figure things out. And then as I got older, I started getting into other things like Dragon Quest and some of the turn-based Final Fantasy games, and then Mega 10, so all the Personas and SMTs and even Metaphor. And so I'm a huge advocate for turn-based now. And even when I see folks that don't play turn-based, I'm like, hey man, check this out. Trust me, you're gonna like it. You gonna play it yet? You gonna play it yet? So I love both, but I'm a huge advocate for turn-based now.
Yeah, and see, I used to be so against turn. I still am against most turn-based. But if we're playing a game, but if we're playing something like, I don't know. I guess what's that game that with like Bloom and Rage or something like that? Is that considered turn-based because you get to make a decision and then they carry it out? Would you consider that?
No. I see where your train of thought is going.
Because that could be puzzle, right? So if something happens, you make a decision and it gets carried out.
Is that like, so how does
that
the
would
game
be
work?
more story driven, or
yes, that's more like a visual
because that's more
story
like
game.
the main thing with those games is they're exploration based. You have to move around the map and uncover things to even get any context, and that's what's going to help determine your decision. So like
well, then
when
in
people
that
say
case,
turn-based
I don't like
RPG,
turn-based.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I like to retract my statement.
I'm back where I always was at. I don't like
but what about things like Final Fantasy? Final Fantasy are turn-based. You're not a fan?
Not a fan.
Not even 10-2 with all the outfit changes and the music?
The only Final Fantasy I play is the one that is not turn-based.
That was 15, I think.
Why 15, do you feel like why do you not like turn-based games then?
Yeah.
Similar reason. Like let's get it on, let's get it over with. Like, why do I want to fight you and give you an opportunity to pick your move and then excuse me, then I have to come back and pick mine?
So you just be in the paint. You just want to be in the squabbling.
Like actively throwing in the hands,
Yeah, that's me.
I like
I gotta play my added list.
Do you feel like it's too much choice?
I just feel like it's a waste of time.
That's fair.
I feel like
I do think turn-based games require a certain level of patience.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be a puzzle. When you get into a turn-based fight, like the whole point is to learn the enemy's weakness, figure out what your strengths are, and then come up with a strategy. Like that's kind of the whole appeal to it. So Yeah,
I
it's
can see
not,
that,
like it,
but
the time isn't really a factor when you're enjoying the puzzle, which is to figure out how to defeat the enemy.
and it's
I
true.
definitely can
She
see
said
where
she
you're
don't like the
coming
puzzle
from
too
though,
much.
because there was a time when action RPGs weren't like my biggest thing. I was more of a turn-based game kind of person. But as I've gotten into things like Monster Hunter, I used to watch people play Monster Hunter and be like, "Ooh, there's a lot going on." But as I've gotten into it, I've really started to love getting in there with the monsters and really just swinging.
But I feel
you know?
like Monster Hunter is
sometimes-
an
I have a question.
interesting. Okay, sorry, real quick. I'm going to and then ask a question.
go
But
ahead.
I think
Mhm.
Monster Hunter is a really interesting call out because it is an action RPG, but it touches on a lot of what Talisman mentioned, which is you have to learn the
Mhm.
monsters.
Mhm.
And so it's a
Right.
good in between of like some of the things I think we like about the turn based aspect that I think a lot of action RPGs don't do properly, that Monster Hunter has managed to get nailed down. So it is interesting that Loa, you don't like the aspect of things not moving fast enough. It's not the fact that you have to figure out and learn something. It's the fact that you have to like wait for these things to go back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, and that's a great call out, because I was going to bring that up too, because with some of these monsters you have to come up with strategy. You have to make sure you're not downwind of some of them, or some of them you can only hit under their stomach, or certain areas. So you learn that when you get your butt beat the first time, and then you come back like, okay, here's my strategy, here's how I'm gonna move, here's the weapon I'm gonna use, here's the armor I need. And
Mhm.
so it's like
Okay.
it's a really cool in between.
Kids
I have a
prepare
question.
differently.
I have a
Yeah.
question.
Shoot.
Which type of RPG do y'all think has a higher skill ceiling, turn-based or action, or is that too binary of a question?
I think it's like, unfortunately, I feel like that's approaching a category where it's like comparing apples and oranges. Like I feel like there's some that are very powerful, but it's only very powerful because it's that specific genre.
I
Yeah.
think I'm gonna
I
say,
do-
Mars,
Oh, go
do you
ahead.
want to go?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I was gonna say that I think turn-based generally is a little bit more difficult because there's more things to grasp, especially if you've never ever like seen somebody play a turn-based game, or if like you hardly know about them. Especially if you're going from one to the other. Like if you've only played one and then you go to like something like Persona or Shin Megami Tensei, it could be kind of like difficult to even understand those mechanics. So just coming from like basics, like you have to understand stats all of a sudden, like in a different way than just like the output. You have to understand magic sometimes, or armor in a more meaningful way than some. Like there are action RPGs that have sophisticated systems, but I do think turn-based RPGs are a lot more complex in how all the mechanics work. And sometimes you can beat a turn-based RPG and have only experienced a portion of it simply because you didn't know like core mechanics of the game, or you didn't use them a lot. Like for instance, my example is Final Fantasy VIII. Like the junction system is actually really fun and really cool, but the game itself, because of the date, like how long it came out, I feel like as a young man playing it, I had no clue how to really use that system and get the most out of it until I became an adult, and I was like, wow, this is kind of crack. But I just think like for somebody picking up a turn-based game, it might be overwhelming, especially because, just like Lois said, the time factor, like you might not be used to waiting. So I think action RPGs have the tutorial right then and there, boom. You're not introduced to many new mechanics throughout the length of the game, which sometimes in turn-based RPGs you do. So that's why I say just generally it's a little bit more difficult, because you have to like wrap your head around what that is. And if you've never played one, you might be a little sauced up,
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I do like that. I think as a rebuttal, what are your thoughts on the difficulty levels of games such as, well, first of all, would Elden Ring be an RPG?
I would say
Yes.
so, yeah.
Yeah, they consider
Okay.
themselves an ARPG.
They're
Okay,
ARPGs.
well, so like, how do you all compare to the difficulty of those games?
So that was actually going to be my rebuttal
Yeah.
because I think that I don't think that turn-based are necessarily more difficult. I think they require using a different skill set is where I would put it. Because
I
you do, to Towson's point, you have to have more patience for a lot of them. But then there's some turn-based that are like, I don't know if y'all ever played like Hyper Dementia, but it's literally just hit a button, hit a button, hit a button. So there are definitely some brain dead turn-based too.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that it can definitely fall on both sides of those type of games where you get the brain dead ones and then you get the more sophisticated ones. And Elden Ring and like the Dark Souls series and even Kazan that I've been watching T play, they all fall into that category of, yes, you can just walk up and smack thing with hammer, but you'll probably die because you don't understand how stats scale or how stamina or faith might also scale certain weapon builds, or how you have to come up with this certain type of armor to resist poison because this monster does poison or rot or some other mechanic. And so though you do have very intricate action RPGs as well. And then you have some that are like more Devil May Cry, where you can Devil May Cry has a lot of mechanics as an action RPG too. But you can also probably just hit the O button and get through most of these. So you do have both of those on both sides.
Do you think which one do you think has more though? Like, do you think there are, within the realm of action RPG? Do you think there's more that require sophistication and planning, or do you think there's more that you can just start with and press the button and win?
I want to comment on action RPGs being more difficult or having a higher ceiling, because timing is always a thing with action RPGs. In turn-based, you have the opportunity to learn, to take time, to strategize. With Dark Souls, that's why I don't play Dark Souls games. I don't have time to think. It's just like, you've got to get your dodge timing right. You're doing too fast. Not so fast now, and it's like,
but to play devil's
that's the kind of stuff where you have to play it and be able to learn the game playing it versus having the opportunity to like strategize and think.
But to play devil's advocate, I have the impression that action RPGs is easier to loop the AI of a boss than it is to loop the AI of a boss or an enemy in a turn-based game.
Like, imagine you have to beat a boss that has like an extreme amount of health and a certain amount of time before it wipes you, and you have to keep it in certain like damage threshold to even move it to the next stage. Like, those kind of timing events can be a lot more difficult to manage rather than just making sure you understand like your build or thinking about how to execute your combos.
But
like the lovers on Persona or something. You're just stuck in an endless loop because you don't know how to kill them.
Are we able to throw just real quick, are we able to throw MMORPGs into the same category as ARPGs?
What is that?
MMO's an umbrella because there's been turn-based MMOs as well. That's an umbrella.
Okay, because I just wanted to talk on Dungeon Fighter as like a different example, and how Dungeon Fighter is not like Elden Ring, but if guides didn't exist for Dungeon Fighter, 90% of people would not be able to play Dungeon Fighter.
That's true, but I think that's an MMO thing. I think that's an MMO thing, not a ARPG thing, though. MMOs in general are convoluted.
In what category? Like,
I think all MMOs.
The help you get, or no? Like what the help you get?
Boss mechanics and how to gear and what's meta. I think all of that's generally convoluted in MMOs. So like, you boot the game up and they're like, "Here's 5,000 mechanics. Good luck."
Raids, party quests, like.
Now I haven't played an MMO in a while since like Rumble Fighter. So I'm gonna use my limited new game knowledge.
Not Rumble Fighter.
Yeah, Rumble Fighter.
I still think that there's something to say about your muscle memory and training your body to be able to play action games well.
Yeah, I think even within the category, like I'm thinking about Final Fantasy 14, and there's definitely a skill that comes with being able to watch everything happening. I play healer a lot, so being able to keep an eye on everybody's stats, being able to lay out whatever I need, so that, because if you're a healer who can't also do some DPS, you're trash. So there is kind of that balance of doing both. And that is like, it's not purely an action RPG, and there are still cooldowns even within Final Fantasy, but it does take a certain level of skill and learning, which is why, I mean, going back to your question that you asked, Talisman, about are there more difficult like turn-based games versus action-based games, I think that's difficult to say. And I think it depends on what type of games. Like if we're going like a JRPG route, I think that we're probably about what and what. Because if we start talking about Tales of and things like that, I think Tales of can have very unique battle systems as well. Tales of Graces does a great job of, even though it's an action RPG, you do have to train yourself on what skills do you have equipped to certain people so that you can break certain like darkness skills before you can actually do damage to monsters. And so even though that's an action RPG, there are very specific things you have to train and learn in order to play that game properly. So I do think there's levels to it, because if we were talking about like American RPGs, I'm sorry, most action RPGs based out of America are kind of they're just not as intricate in general. There are some great ones, but I
don't
don't
disrespect Red Dead Redemption.
I said
dare.
all of them, but I think as an overarching theme, I think they're not as intricate.
I feel what you're saying. That wasn't my question though, but I still feel what you're saying.
High for American RPGs.
I might have gone on a tangent.
My question.
You're good at Grand Theft Auto. You're just good at Grand Theft Auto. Like you're just good. Like
my question. Wait, my question.
But I will say, GTA PvP gets to a wild level, but that's a different story.
My question was whether it's turn-based or action. Like, do you think there's more turn-based games that are more sophisticated than kind of easy in terms of like what we previously discussed? And then same with like action. Like, do you think there's more action games that require you to understand your character's stats to a very like specific degree and build and like kind of understand like that was my question was. Within both, which one do you think is more like? Are there more strategy-based action or?
I think, in my opinion, turn-based games definitely have the stricter entry curve. Just in general, I feel like there's more turn-based games that are harder to learn. Now, mastery is different, but that's a lot of action RPGs are button mashers. There's a lot of action RPGs that aren't, but I feel like a large amount of action RPGs, if you know how to button mash and dodge, then you can survive 99% of the game, because there's going to be at least some infinite heal exploit you can get towards the end of the game, right? And you learn how to button mash and how to roll like 5 minutes into the game. Turn-based games is like, nah, right off the rip, if you don't know how to strategize, if you don't know how elements work and attributes work or affinities, you're cooked. You need to learn that immediately, or you're going to die to like the second boss repeatedly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also why I don't like our turn-based. Because it's like you have to go in there, you have to get your defense ready, you got to see what kind of attack you're going to use, and then if they do the same thing and then boom, you don't have a chance to even really defend yourself properly, or
you have to plan where you defend, like with a lot of action RPGs, it's like, okay, you have a block button, you have a parry button, versus with turn-based RPGs, a lot of times it's like, ooh, should I block here because is the boss about to use something that's going to wipe my party if I don't block? Like there are things where you have to be a little bit more intentional about where you use certain skills. So I would agree that with if you're comparing the two, then yes, I think turn-based do have a higher entry level for the most part across most turn-based games. Like even if I'm thinking about the ones that I can think of, like Hyperdementia, which are very like brain daddy, they do still require a certain level of like, you're here, this character's your darkness magic, this character's your light magic, this, like you still have even that basic level of like, if you're playing a turn-based, these are different types of characters you want to use that you don't necessarily have at the entry point of like an action RPG.
Okay, I got a question.
Well, wait, real quick. Fire Emblem.
Yes.
Where is Fire Emblem falling in this?
It leans turn-based. It's tactical, but I would say turn-based. Yeah, turn-based tactical RPG. Yeah.
It has the word turn in its. It says it's your turn. It's their turn.
A shining example of a game where you have to take a minute and think and just work your way through it. That's what I go to turn-based games for. Then die. Sometimes you die. Well, and try again and again and again and again.
And I think Fire Emblem is a great example of like in my brain what I compare to like a Dark Souls game, because you kind of like there's so many times in Fire Emblem where you play the same map 5 times before you really get it. And I feel like it's the same thing with Dark Souls bosses, where it's sometimes where it's like I almost got this dude, but when it changes when he changes his abilities, or when we get to that halfway mark where he gets super aggressive. All right, I got to switch up my strategy at that point. Or what T just went through with Kazan. Yeah, it's like there was a second phase, and now the whole thing's changed, and that happens a lot in really intricate action RPGs. But I feel like you tend to run into that a lot more in turn-based games, where it's like, okay, this was going well, I thought I had it, but now I don't. And Fire Emblem is a shining example of that, where it's like, we were good halfway through this map, and then these 15 dudes came out the shadows, and I have to reevaluate.
Oh, the Griffin Knights appeared. Great.
Right. Oh, they came across the river. Didn't see them down there.
Didn't see that coming.
Right.
Once everybody goes through this, I have another question.
Word.
Okay.
Wait, I had a question. You wanted to say your question first? I had two questions, but one's for later anyway.
Dang. Okay, yeah. Let me ask mine. All right, Mr. Riddler. My question is, which style of gameplay do y'all think is better as a storytelling medium? Action RPG?
That was one of my questions.
Sorry. Turn-based. 100% turn-based for me. That was actually going to be a thing that I brought up as to why, even though I like both, I tend to lean more turn-based, because I do feel like they are better as storytelling devices. You can take more time to tell a story, I feel like, in turn-based than with action. Like, action tends to rely very heavily on, like, a cutscene, then another cutscene, then another cutscene. Versus with turn-based, you tend to also get a lot of like, oh, here's a quest where you're learning about certain characters. And some games, again, do pretty well with action RPGs and having quests, but I think they tend to flow more naturally when you're doing turn-based games. It also gives you the ability to figure out how much you care about a lot of story. Turn-based, you can go straight through it, go through the cutscenes, go through the more linear. Or with a lot of turn-based games, you also have the option to do those side quests and things to really build your understanding of the world.
Yo, I got it. So to Mars's point, like when it comes to turn-based stuff, like you also have the time during the fight. Like let's say you're in the mid game and the big twist happened, and now you want to run it up on somebody. You have to, right? Because maybe you took an L or something, and like now you got to run it up on the boss. Like that matters to you, and you get to linger in that, right? And you have enough time that you might be able to figure out the strategy without taking an L like completely, but it doesn't ruin the immersions. And I'm not gonna say that action games ruin the immersion sometimes, because some of my most ramped up moments and feelings of adrenaline come from action RPGs, where it's like, yo, this guy just cooked my friend. Like I've played the whole game with my partner, and now he's dead. Like I'm mad and I'm trying to like own it, or I'm trying to defeat this guy, and I just don't get the skills on the sticks. And you keep ramming your head into that wall, and then sometimes it breaks immersion, especially when after you've tried for like 40 minutes, you actually start getting good, and then you sauce him completely, and then it's like, and then you hit a cutscene where you get crushed, like really in the cutscene you lose, and you're like, I just cooked this man. How does this happen? That can happen in turn-based too. But I definitely just feel like in the moment, like with the story, there are certain elements that turn-based have that can happen that action, I think it just happens a little less in. It happens, but it happens less. Like people running into the fight or conditions changing. And like action RPGs have like a good moment of that, like with they can, change the landscape, and maybe you'll have transformations, or somebody might come in for support. Like those moments are really cool. But in turn-based, like there's so many variations, like a character getting a moment to do something that's unique to their character, or the same thing, conditions change and the fight changes on its head, and you have to use a different strategy. If you like, you have to prepare in a meaningful way, and sometimes even the way you've prepared might even change the outcome of the fight or how the fight goes. So I like Tomar's point, like turn-based has such a wide range of ways that they can implement the story, but then also like there's still a huge future for that, because in action RPGs it still kind of rides the cinematic way of doing things, which is still good. It's just turn-based has a bigger pool to like draw from and then go towards as time even goes forward.
Right. Even thinking about this is an exception, I think, because Mass Effect, I would say, falls more into an action-based RPG, but also does what Mass Effect is interesting, because I feel like it's an action on a technicality.
Can't you make it a turn-based?
You can make it turn-based. It's kind of actually a both, but I was thinking about the storytelling mechanism as you were talking about, Talisman, of like different things that you do changing the way that like the battle outcome is, and I feel like Mass Effect does that very well, even though it can kind of fall into both. But Mass Effect borrows heavily from like Dungeons and Dragons mechanics, and I think that's why it falls into that in between where you're able to change things based on like, oh, you didn't ally yourself, or you didn't do the side quest with this person, so now they don't trust you, so they didn't go with you into the final war, but now they died because they stayed on the planet because they didn't like you. Things like that that you don't necessarily see often in action RPGs. I don't remember where I was going with this, but I feel like that's very rare. Just basically, it's very rare in an action RPG to see that level of storytelling. I think a lot of times it works better because you have those breaks.
Lost
in the
Judgment.
Story.
Action RPG, great storytelling.
Ooh, Yakuza, just I don't.
That is
it
like
does
my
both.
favorite.
It does
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
I feel like
Action
why not
RPGs.
both?
Action RPGs are great
It does
at
both.
storytelling. I'm on the
It does
side of
both. It
turn-based
does
as well
both.
as when it comes to storytelling, because I think there's just so many things that forces you to take in every moment that's happening. Because action RPG, you have to immediately lock in into pressing the buttons and having your reflexes. But turn-based, you know, it makes you pause, and the boss fight starts, and you're like, "Hey, yo, how am I gonna beat this dude?" And you can actually process. Look at the size of this boss. Hold on, my teammates are dead. What am I? Or they slowly come into the fight, right? And I would say action RPGs have an effect like that, especially with now that we have games where the cutscenes go straight into the boss fights. But I would say out of all my action RPGs that I played, I think the ones that's probably most competitive with turn-based RPGs with story impact are probably Tales series, because I think Tales series does a great job at blending story into its action combat. And that's not to say action RPGs, other ones don't do that, but I think Tales is probably a superstar in that category for action RPGs.
Agreed.
So, you know, I've
agreed.
never played Tales because I thought it was a turn-based.
Yeah, it's an action. You'll like it. You'll like Tales of a
I
lot.
think you'd like
They go
that.
into a
Yeah,
lot of
I
things.
think
They
you
talk
can get
about
into 'em.
racism, slavery, colonialism,
Oh,
genocide.
wait, I think
all
I've
kinds of
seen
stuff.
that. Okay, yep.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
I
you
would
probably
like
watched
that.
us play. Yeah.
Some of the
Yeah,
characters
with
like
you.
get adopted by vulnerable populations. I think you'd really
Yeah,
like
I
it.
think
Some
I watched.
characters are
I
permanent
watched
crash
you do a
outs. There's a
gameplay.
dude that will betray
Not
you every
permanent
5
crash
minutes.
outs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
do
do-
think I like that. I do. I think I watched
Yeah.
a gameplay, Mars.
Yeah, I might. I
Mhm.
think I played some of Grace's on the
Mm.
on the Discord.
Okay.
But no, I agree. I think if you were to ask me to give a list of like turn-based RPGs that really hit for me as far as storytelling goes compared to action, I think my turn-based list would be much longer, even though I do appreciate both forms of gameplay. T, there was something you said before Lois mentioned the Tales of series that really, Like a Dragon. I do think Like a Dragon is the exception that proves the rule. And the reason that game is so popular, I was watching a video as someone was breaking down like why Like a Dragon has been so successful across its entire career. And I think it is because it is one of the few games that can
Like a
merge
dragon.
action RPGs or turn-based, depending on which ones you're playing, with storytelling, but also with the randomness that series. We can go on a whole different rant about
Basically
Like a
doing
Dragon,
stuff.
but I think that
Like a dragon.
it has such melodramatic and intense storytelling that regardless of what format you're in, you're able to really appreciate the story. And it does a really good job of interweaving those when you're in a fight, the way it brings in those fights. Like if you remember some of those battles where somebody's coming at you with a sword and then it's got that slow motion and it's giving you both names so-and-so versus so-and-so, and you go right into the action. And I think it does it in a very specific way that a lot of action RPGs can't do.
Agreed.
Sally,
I think they do a really cool way of wrapping that in. Like it's not just cutscenes; it's like you're in the cutscene,
Like
and
the
we're bringing
cutscene
it
has
to you.
become the battle, right?
Yeah.
I remember there's
I
a
like
very
that.
specific fight with I think it's one of Kiryu's where you're in this tunnel and there's a man on a motorcycle coming towards you. You've been like hunting this dude down for the entirety of the game, and then you see him rev up, and at this point you realize that like he probably wasn't the worst guy, but it's too late. Y'all are committed. You got to kill each other. And so like, but you see him rev up in this cave, in this tunnel, and he's coming towards you on the motorcycle. And then like, as he's swinging his blade at you and you're like slightly dodging out of the way, it twists into the actual fight. And it's such a perfect
that's
transition from the scene into like, all right, square up. You better have had your hands on that controller. 'cause it's
Oh,
time to
I was
fight.
watching.
Right. I was cutting the cinematics. Hold on. Right.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
What was your question, Sally?
Okay, so my last question is, which one is more frustrating to lose at? Like, which one has you big baby rage mad? Like, which one makes you feel more defeated? Like, you just had to hold that up.
Action.
Action
Yeah.
RPGs.
Action.
RPGs.
Action. Action.
Action RPGs. Because
Losing-
at least with turn-based, I feel like, okay, let me try this again. I made a wrong step. Action, I just feel like I got mobbed. Like, how did I do
Yeah,
this?
you just got cooked.
I was
Action
trying my
RPGs.
best.
Action RPGs, you lose and you start to get to a point where you're like, do I just suck at this game?
Yeah.
Turn-based
Am I
RPGs,
trash?
turn-based RPGs, you're at least like, okay, let me revise my
Yeah.
strategy. Let me go back. I know I didn't guard too late. I'm just missing something. Action
Yeah.
RPGs will destroy your morale.
Man,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
telling
Or
you,
you're just
like,
missing
I almost
something.
through.
Yeah. Right. Because you could go from cooking the last boss in some games. You can go from cooking the last boss, and then like
Amazing.
almost in
Yes.
5 minutes you reach a new area,
It's
and then the
pain.
next starting boss might just wipe the floor with you, and you're just
The
like,
game-
what is happening?
the game
Like,
said the
what is
recommended
going on? Like,
level was
I
35, I'm level
leveled,
60. Why am I dying?
I got new
shiny
stats.
new
I was
weapons
like,
and
man, what
everything.
am I just trash?
Yeah.
I checked the
That's-
resistances.
Right. It don't matter. It don't matter. And like, cause like you control that character, so it's like it really feels like a reflect. Like you see where your mistakes get you, like in real time. Like if you even like a misclick on a dodge or something or a parry, and then you just cook. Especially if you don't got the stats for it, your health bar is gone, and then now you're using a potion. You're doing whatever you can, and now you got potions left. Your anxiety's rising.
Yeah.
It's
That's-
just like
that's about it.
at some
I
point
was
you might
thinking
feel
about
defeated.
that,
The
but I
fight
feel
might
like
not
with
even be over. You
turn-based
just feel
too, there's
defeated
a
before
point
it
where you
even ends.
realize like, ooh, I'm probably not gonna win this. With action games, it could be down to the wire. Like that DLC Radon in Elden Ring, that dude. I remember I literally hit him and he hit me, but my death animation was faster than his, so I lost. And that I will
You
sit
died
with me for
first.
the rest of my life because I died first technically. And it's little moments like that where I'm
Yo.
like, that just doesn't happen in a turn-based, because again, it was my turn, so if I won, I won. Or it was my turn, I just didn't do enough damage and I saw it happen and I decided not to heal because I thought I was gonna do enough damage, so now I lose. Like at least you can kind of see it coming in a way where some action-based RPGs can just like it was that moment in the anime where they both cross swords and then like somebody falls before the other one and I was the one who fell.
And you were the one who fell.
Yeah.
Dang.
You don't know defeat until you get boxed out by high schoolers and you're a grown man in a video game.
That's true.
I just be like, "Nyeh."
Yeah. But losing in a turn-based game, sometimes losing in a turn-based game might change your story. It might put you on a different path than
That's
you were
true.
trying to be, especially like if it's a game that
That's
has
true.
like
Choices.
branching narratives.
Yeah.
Losing might actually put you on a different ending than you're going for, change your experience a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
And so that there's something with that there's emotions with that, like losing a turn-based game, especially after a long fight, and then finding out like, wait, why am I getting this ending? And it's like, oh yeah, bro, you
Yeah, you
actually
made
just
that
did
This
kill
is
this
live
person
to
at the time.
Jimmy.
H-
Or
Yeah.
you killed this person you weren't supposed to. You were supposed to wait a couple more turns, and then they would see the light.
Or
Undertale.
because
You know,
you
sometimes
have to
I
fight
just-
this
Yeah.
I'd be like
person.
annoyed.
Just like
That makes me
Undertale.
more annoyed
Yeah, I was
than
like
defeated.
that
really.
annoys me because it feels like I should have had some opportunity to understand that. Yeah, that reminds me of like Fire Emblem though, where especially the older Fire Emblem games, they don't do it too much in the Switch ones, but some of the older ones, it was like you had to have a very specific person in your party to go talk to
Yep.
some people to convince them to be a part of your party,
Exactly.
or you would kill them as part of the enemy camp. But it would
And
at least
not
give you a
know.
hit.
And
Yeah,
you just wouldn't
Yeah, you
know
just-
who
I
you
feel like
needed
they
to
got-
have in your party. To
yeah,
get
like
them.
you
just-
knew, right? You knew they were important because they had a face, but you didn't
Yeah.
know like which one of these people are the people that I need to have with me that are like, I recognize that guy. So you'd be restarting and adding everyone to your party.
reading everybody's dialogue
How's it going,
extra
Jimmy?
hard. Like,
Yeah.
now what did you
Trying to
say
see-
the name of the town you were from was? Because
That's what it would be too. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, La Rochelle is also from such and such kingdom.
Right.
Oh, okay, she must have to be the person
She
that's supposed to talk
must
to
be.
this dude. Yeah. Little
Yeah.
things
All
like
right.
that.
Those
But
were
I
a
do
lot.
like it as a storytelling mechanism that I think it does
Mhm.
uniquely that action RPGs don't do too often. To the point of like dying and getting a different trajectory is like that's a storytelling mechanism that we don't see too often in action RPGs.
All right, y'all.
Definitely.
How's everybody feeling on this question before I close out?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
go for it.
Any,
All right, for
any
sure.
last remarks?
So as we close out, I want to ask: I call this 12 games. I want every single one of y'all to list one turn-based game you would recommend to somebody, and one action game you would recommend. It doesn't have to be like mainstream. It doesn't have to be indie. It could just be like two that you really enjoy, and it will bring you joy if somebody else played it. So I could start one turn-based game I would recommend. I already brought it up, but Chrono Trigger. I want everybody to experience a game like Chrono Trigger. If you've never played Chrono Trigger, please try it out. And then on the action RPG side, I'm gonna have to plug Kingdom Hearts 2. That's probably something I grew up with, and that's to this day is probably one of my favorite action RPGs. So those are the two I'll plug.
Hey, dope. I'm gonna go ahead and plug a couple. Hey, shout out Monster
Only
Hunter,
one.
the whole franchise.
One on one.
That's what I'm saying. It's a
Okay.
couple. You want
Okay.
one and one? That's two. Two's a couple, brother.
He was making sure you didn't have a polygamous relationship happening. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe you have
He
more
said,
in
how
your
many
couple.
is your
Yeah.
couple?
Yeah, how
Couples are
big your
couples.
couple? Yeah.
Okay. Monster Hunter franchise, but specifically if you're new to it, I would say go Monster Hunter World. I think you can get a really good idea of what you're in for, while also, not having to drop $70 and maybe having lag or Lego block monsters. So Monster Hunter World, if you're dipping your feet in on the action RPG side, and on turn-based, I gotta go Persona. That was probably somebody else's in the circle, but I'm gonna say it first. The Persona franchise, any one of them. I mean, you can't miss 3 through 5. You
Play a
can't
real
miss.
Megaton game like Shin Megami Tensei. I'm just playing.
Ah.
I'm just
The
playing.
edgelord.
And those are the people that love to play the games where you get killed and have to try again and
And you start to
again
cry.
and again and again.
This is true.
All right, who
Yeah.
got next?
I'll go next. Oh, go ahead.
So
No,
I'm
go
gonna
ahead,
go
Lola.
while it's nice and quiet. I don't have any turn-based.
That's okay.
Pokemon.
'Cause she
I
can't
know.
read.
Pokemon? No, that's good.
Pokemon
Pokemon's
counts.
turn-based,
Pokemon's
yeah.
turn-based.
All right, I'm gonna go Pokemon. But as far as action RPGs, I'm gonna go. One of my favorites has always been Devil May Cry.
Jackpot.
Yes.
That series. So
Visions.
What?
DMC.
that
That's a
DMC. DMC.
Trying to get your DMC
Nah.
on, bruh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I co-signed DMC, but my two, I was gonna say Xenoblade, which I actually did not talk about on this call at all. But Xenoblade is an action RPG. I highly recommend it. It's another one that does a good mix of storytelling with your RPG and with action RPGs, which is why I went into the other tangent about JRPGs versus Western RPGs. Now they do a better job, regardless if it's action or turn-based, telling a story. Biased, but so Xenoblade, my actual turn-based. This is rough. But since Kogra didn't say it,
Kill
I would
every
recommend
last
Fire
one of them.
Any Fire Emblem, really. But my personal favorite is the one for the Game Boy Advance, which is Sacred Stones, which good luck finding it. Find on an emulator. But if you find one more recent, I would say the Three Houses would be one that I would pick
Three
up if you
Houses,
have it.
such a good one.
Yes, if you want
Such a good one.
your heart to cry, do Three Houses.
Yo, Fire Emblem, man. Just thinking about it makes me want to play a Fire Emblem game.
I know it really does.
It
It is like
does,
that.
you
It's
know?
like I
It's
almost
like,
want to get up
man,
and go
let
play
me go
Fire
pull
Emblem now.
something.
Let's go play Fire Emblem real quick.
All right, Cali Visions.
All right.
Yo, I'll go. So first off, I'm gonna say action RPG. Yo, play Nier Automata. It's such a great game. I think it does a good job at displaying the story, and also like the type of action that you get to play. The type of action that you get to play is like really cool. There's like bullet hells. There's it kind of switches to 2D sometimes. You have to learn how to combo. And you can parry. You can change your character's build, and then just I think like pairing the story with the action and making you feel for the characters, like that's literally like the name of the game. The whole point is to feel something in that game. So I think it's really dope, especially if you're looking for something that has a good story, but it's not super hard. You can make it harder, but there's a lot of different ways to play that game, even within just the normal fighting. So I would say Nier Automata, please play that game. Turn-based, I'm gonna make a suggestion because I like a lot of turn-based games, but I'm gonna make a suggestion to people who maybe not are used to turn-based games and might find some fun. And this is gonna be for the Nintendo people. So I'm gonna say Paper Mario.
Yeah.
I think it's just a solid turn-based game. It has some like action commands that you can do to like make your damage a little bit better, but it's just a nice fun game to play. Like you don't have to think too hard about it. Like there is build aspect, and I think they flesh that out in some of the newer ones. Or if you want something just a little bit less on the nose of that and you don't mind like a handheld game, is Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Even when I played that game when I was a kid, like it's just fun. It is more action commandy, but you do take turns, and like sometimes like certain actions that you have will start a combo with you and Luigi, like Mario and Luigi, and it has like really fun animations. And just like Paper Mario, it's like a very similar game. So I would say if you're looking to like play a turn-based RPG, but you don't like the traditional JRPG or anime aesthetic, or even if you don't want to think about strategy too much, like that is a fun game, and it's family fun. So if you have kids or something, or you know you're younger, that is a good one to try out before you dive into some of the other ones that you're unsure about.
Nice. All right, yeah, and then I'm gonna start with turn-based. For turn-based, there's a technicality, but I would highly recommend Deltarune / Undertale. I think both of those are very phenomenal games that if you haven't given it a shot, try it. And if you have tried it, try it again. It's really good. And honestly, as someone that doesn't really play too many turn-based, I think that was a really great turn-based time.
Is that one game or two?
Two different games.
Oh,
well,
you just snuck two up in there. Okay.
But
It's kind of the same game, that's why. I'll say
they're
Undertale.
connected. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll say
Same
Undertale.
series.
So same series. Okay.
Right. And then for RPG, honestly, I'm not too sure. I think everyone else here in PXP gave really solid examples, and I haven't really branched out to like more RPGs than the ones that the typical
Just play
ones like
Fortnite.
like Fortnite, Marvel Rivals, Grand Theft Auto. Those are the games that like everyone already knows.
Got him.
Everyone pretty much. I mean,
Those
yeah,
are
if you
not RPGs,
I
right?
grew up on platformers where
Okay.
like games like Little Big Planet and stuff. I don't, I like they're gray areas, A Little Big
Yeah.
Planet could be turn-based if they wanted it to be.
It's a platformer.
No, I'm saying like the
It's a platforming
Well,
RPG.
anyways, yeah.
Huh.
So with that being said, not really any RPG recommendations, but highly recommend Undertale for turn-based.
Hey.
Interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, y'all. So y'all heard it here. 12 different games for you to check out, or 12 different franchises at the bare minimum. We're hoping that everybody on this call at least gets to try out a new game that somebody else mentioned. But that's all the time that we really have for this one. Let us know in the comments what you think about turn-based RPGs and what you think about action RPGs. Even give us some of your video game recommendations. And once again, don't forget to jump into the Discord. We do game nights in there. Sometimes we play these action RPGs together. Sometimes we play these turn-based together. Sometimes we share strategies. Me and Tally were playing Shin Megami Tensei 5 and coaching each other through that game. So join our Discord, hop into some game sessions with us. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe so YouTube will remember to keep us on your feed. That way, if we are getting cooked in the game, be it Kazan or anything else, you can see it happen in real time. But this is City Boy T, and this is the PXP crew. We're on our way out. Until next time, peace.
Peace.
Peace.